Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Storytime episode 12. I am Eros. So many incredible and amazing things just flying into my consciousness this morning. So many beautifully painful memories and so many extravagant blessings, that I've just been thinking about mulling over my mind this morning. And one of them hit me pretty hard. I thought this is an experience that I absolutely have to share with people. And I've shared this experience with a number of people. But I was thinking about dreams. I was headed up to the store this morning to grab some cigarettes and some go juice. And as I was pulling out of the driveway in my wife's new car, I was looking at her old car, which is sitting there parked with what could possibly be a bad transmission. Um, we honestly really don't know. Just one day it stopped going, and it had sat in the shop for several weeks. And then this is what I'm thinking about as I'm leaving this morning. And then one morning I wake up from this dream. And in this dream, I was at the shop where the car had been for a few weeks at this point in time. And there was a man there at the shop that I'd never met before, that I didn't recognize. And he comes out of the shop and he comes to me and he's holding this hose in his hand, right? And he says, "This right here is the problem. This has been the problem all along. This broken vacuum hoses, which is why the vehicle wouldn't go into gear." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. We don't have to replace the whole entire transmission." And he says, "Yep, it was just this. It's like a $10 part." And then the dream ends. And I get a hold of the shop. I get a hold of the shop owner, and I text him this message about my dream, and just kind of like leave it open. A couple days goes by. I hear nothing, and he hits me up. "Hey man, we've done all that we could do with this thing. We need to figure out where to go from here. Get you all squared up. Get the rental car returned." And I'm like, "All right, cool." You know. But this is like right as we're getting ready to leave for Florida on our little mini vacation, middle of February or middle of January, I think maybe. And I tell him we're out of town. As soon as I get back, I'll square up with you. I actually got on the phone with him and paid up our balance over the phone with a credit card. And then we get back from Florida, and I have the car towed back to the house. Now this thing starts right up. It just don't move, right? And I'm thinking about this morning because like a week ago, I was on some Facebook forum about Nissan Muranos, and somebody had mentioned that their '07 Murano, same year as ours here, wasn't going into gear and moving, and they discovered it was a crack in a vacuum hose. Right now, I haven't actually looked into this thing yet. I haven't actually done an investigation on this thing to find out what's actually going on with it, if maybe it's something simple like that. But I was thinking about this, and I was like, I need to do this today. I need to probably get into this vehicle today and find out what's going on, because I'm getting ready to sell this thing for like dirt cheap because it needs a transmission. And just imagine if all it needs is a hose and it's a perfectly running vehicle, right? And I let it go for nothing. That would be a dumb choice. I mean, it'd be a great blessing on somebody else, and I'm all about blessing other people, but it'd be a dumb choice on my part. And this had precipitated into my thoughts about my dreams. People close to me know that I frequently have these very clear, very detailed, sometimes symbolic, sometimes super clear prophetic dreams. And my consciousness was recalled to an event from, I want to say, about 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago. This was it was November of 2021. November of 2020. It was November of 2020. I moved here in March of 2020, and I was working for a friend of mine who had called me here to help him start up a business. Whole entire crazy ass, just wild story behind all that, but that's for another episode. At any rate, me and my friend have a falling out. I realized at some point in time, that I was supposed to be here. I didn't come here to help this friend to work for this guy. He blew like $500,000 smoking meth and shit. It was a traumatizing experience for me and for another gentleman who was involved in this whole process. But at any rate, I realized that I was supposed to be here, and so my wife's still living in Florida. I'm up here. We're traveling back and forth as our means and time allows to try to spend some time with each other. And it's like a whole 6-month period. And I start looking for a place to live, and I'm coming up with nothing. And then, like, suddenly I'm just given a spot, right? Beautiful home in an amazing place, just perfect for us and for what we do here. Lots of room for guests because we bring people in. And help them through their healing processes, help people get on their feet. We do that a lot, right? So this place is perfect. And I start my own business here, doing tree work, land clearing, and I'm doing pretty good up until a point that I get like a little dry spell. This is like right in the middle of COVID, guys. The Fairy and I had just spent like over 20 grand opening a new shop here in North Carolina. We were at 50% capacity at our shop down in Florida, because of COVID. And everything's on me. Like, I'm paying all the rents, I'm paying all the bills. I'm paying to keep this new shop open because the Fairy's not getting enough clients to even like cover the rent for this place, right? On top of like her car payment and insurance. And it's great because I'm making it. My business in the middle of COVID is making it. Suddenly I hit this little dry spell. Our savings are like low, right? Because we just spent all this money opening a new shop. And I've got a guy who's staying with me that I'm helping to like get his shit together and get his things figured out. This dude's got all kinds of issues, substance abuse problems and stuff like that. And we're just helping him figure things out. And I hit this dry spot and I start to get a little nervous. Now, this guy that's living with us is working for a local construction company here in Fletcher, North Carolina. And he's like, dude, you should come to work for us, man. They need people. They'll pay you $20 an hour. And I'm like laughing, right? Okay. Back in Florida, I was making $31 an hour doing plumbing, and working for myself, I'm making like $115 an hour. There's no way I'm taking a $20 an hour job. But things are starting to look tight and I'm getting scared. Okay, now this is the important part. I'm getting scared at this point, okay? Now, I preach this all the time. Fear-based decisions bring us more problems. Fear-based decisions always bring us more problems. So I end up talking to dude and saying, hey, man, if they need somebody, I'll come, I'll work for them, like hook me up and I'll negotiate, my pay rate and everything. And I ended up negotiating $25 an hour. Which at 40 hours a week, I'm barely making it, right? And we're doing 45, 46, 47 hours a week over here. And I'm doing okay with my huge truck payment, my huge rent payment, commercial property rent, and all the other things. But then we get into October, shit's looking rough. We're working like 23, 25 hours a week. I'm working too much to do anything else, but not enough to pay my bills, and the savings are getting burned up here, right? End of November rolls around, middle of November rolls around. I got a day off work. I was up early because I expected we was going to work. Company owner hits me up and he's like, dude, no work today. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. So I sit and I meditate. I'm processing the fear that's coming up from this, as I'm future tripping about how I'm going to lose everything. And I lay down to meditate and I fall into a napitation. And this nap precipitates into a lucid dream. I come out from this lucid dream and I tell the Fairy about it right away. I was like, dude, I just had the craziest dream. I had this dream that I'm working on this job and there's visqueen everywhere. It's not super clear, it's kind of fuzzy, but there's visqueen everywhere in this dream. There's these like wood stands and this like wood platform that we're working on, and I don't see what happens, but in this dream somebody's injured, like seriously injured, right? And it's me and another guy on the job, and we're in my truck, and for some odd reason I can't drive to the hospital. I don't know who's injured. but I know that they need to get to the hospital, and I can't drive, so I call the ferry up. She's at work out in Brevard. She shuts her day down and hauls ass out to the job site, which I have no idea where this job site's at in this dream. And that was the end of the dream. And I'm telling her about this, and she says, like, it's pretty clear and obvious to me that you need to quit this job and work on your business. You need to go back to work for yourself. And I agreed with her. I was like, I think you're right. I think that's what's coming out of this dream. But I don't quit the job, okay, because I'm scared, right? I'm scared that I can't make it on my own, working for myself. I'm scared that I'm going to lose everything. And I'm hoping that things get better with this job. So I stick it out, and about a week goes by, right? My helper and I are on this job in a church basement where the floor is covered in visqueen, right? And I've got this blank door slab up on these sawhorses. I just bought a rigid mini router and router bit so that I could cut out for the hinges on this door that we have to custom make for this church basement. And I turn the router on, and I go to put it on the door where I've got marked out for the hinges, and the thing flips around, grabs a hold of this thumb right here, and chews it the fuck up. I drop the router, it's jumping all over the place. My helper picks it up and shut it off. There's blood spraying everywhere. And I run outside, I take my shirt off, I wrap my shirt around this thing, and I'm kind of in shock for a minute, right? And I was like, okay, I gotta see how bad this is. And I unwrap it, and this thing's wide open. Like, I'm looking at bones and flesh. And I take a picture of it, and I send it to the owner of the company. I was like, this just happened. And then I send that picture to my wife, and I'm like, this just happens, right? And the owner of the company texts me back and says, dude, you need to go to the hospital. And my wife calls me, she's like, what the fuck? And my helper's like, dude, I think you need to go to the hospital. I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, this looks pretty serious. I probably need to go to the hospital. And my wife hauls ass out there to meet us at the hospital in Hendersonville. My helper drives my truck to the hospital. I get all sutured up and everything. The shock wears off, the local anesthetic wears off, and I'm in the worst imaginable pain of my life, okay? And narcotic pain management is not an option for me as an opiate addict. I gotta figure this shit out, all right? The first thing is I'm now out of work for I don't know how long, right? My wife is still like not even at 50% capacity with clients in our new shop, and our savings and our savings are going down and our credit card balances are going up. And over the course of this 9-week convalescence, one of the things that happens is my truck is repossessed. Now my truck gets repossessed at like 5 o'clock in the morning. At like 1 o'clock, I fall asleep in front of the fireplace one night. I've been spending a bunch of time in front of the fireplace. 1 o'clock in the morning, I wake up from a dream that my truck was being repossessed, and I hear a voice say, let it go, it's the best thing for you. So 5 o'clock rolls around, and I hear there's a knock at the door, and I get up out of the living room, and I walk to the kitchen window where I can see my whole entire front yard. We got this big panoramic window, and there's a tow truck out there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, here it is, right? I go and I grab my keys off the key hook. I walk out the front door to meet the repossession guy, hand him the keys, and start taking all my stuff out of my truck. He goes with my truck, and I lay down and go back to sleep, okay? The fairy gets up the next morning, and she's like, dude, where's your truck? And I was like, oh yeah, I got repossessed last night. And she's flipping the fuck out. And I'm in a place of total peace, okay? This is like right near the end of this 9-week convalescent period that I'm going through with this injury. And there's a whole bunch of shit that happens in the interim, right? Going back to what I was saying about narcotic pain management not being an option for me, I've taught meditation for well over a decade at this point in time, and one of the things that I've taught is how to manage physical pain with the mind. Okay, so I'm doing this thing where I'm converting this physical pain in my thumb to the pain of a tattoo needle, which I love. Okay, so I'm not in pain for the most part, most of the time, but I have these moments where I'm just sitting still, and the pain gets so fucking overwhelming that I would do anything for a shot of Dilaudid. It's the worst thing I've ever felt in my life, right? And the fairy says, focus, meditate. You know you can do this. And I'm focusing on meditating at one point in time, and I get a message, listen to the pain. I'm like, listen to the pain, listen to the pain. What do you mean? And I get, don't ignore the pain, listen to the pain, you know? So I started doing that. I started listening to the pain. And in listening to the pain, I get a vision of being in a dark place. And there's a door in front of me in this dark place that goes to an even darker place. And behind that door is something that happens to me as a child. And we had narrowed it down to it. It happened between the ages of 5 and maybe 10 years old, but we're not clear on when it's happened. But I know in my heart what it is that has happened. This is a repressed memory that's coming up for me in my convalescence as I'm listening to the pain as I was guided to my meditation. And I think I know what happened. I know what happened. There's no need to go through that door. Like, I know what happened. Okay. I've been molested as a child before. Okay. I've worked through that shit. I'm going to apply that work to this situation right here. It's going to be fine. I get to the point where I'm healed enough that I can do light duty, and the owner of the company calls me back to work to do some light duty. We're working, I'm helping him with his books. It's right around tax time at this point in time. And my situation is getting harder and harder. You know, like, January rent was barely paid. We're barely making it, dude. We're starving at this point in time. And the pain and my thumb is getting worse, you know. And the fairy reminds me to listen to the pain as I was instructed. So I sat with it and I'm listening to the pain. And in listening to the pain, I'm getting a clear message: quit the job. You're gonna be okay. Make a damn decision. You're going to be okay. And so I did just that. And the very next day, I called the other company up and I said, dude, I can't work for you anymore, man. This is, I love you, man, but this is not for me. And he's like, I understand, you know, do what you got to do. An hour later, someone that I had billed a quote for to drop several trees on their property hits me up and says, hey, I got the money, I'm ready to do this. It's a $9,000 job, guys. $9,000 after expenses is gonna put me right back where I need to be. Just a little bit too late to save my truck that I was 3 months behind on payments with, but that's okay. There's a couple of points to this. One of the points is that whether you're a really tuned in psychic or just an average human being, I believe everybody has psychic capabilities if they work on them, if they work on developing them. And I've got a process for that, by the way. If anyone's interested in knowing what the process is, you know, find me on Facebook as In Dragon Healing and send me a message, or leave me a message in the comments and I'll get back to you. But whether you're an in-tune psychic with developed skills or just your average regular conscious person, the things that go on in our dream state are connected to our reality. So we really need to pay attention to that stuff and listen to what's going on in our dreams, you know. The other thing is transmutation, okay? This has been a huge part of my healing and growth processes over the last 2.5 decades. Transmutation. And I'm a natural born master chaos mage, so transmutation is just something that I do, okay? It doesn't really require a whole lot of effort on my part. And what that means basically is taking a shit situation and turning it into a blessing, turning it into a beneficial situation. And that was what exactly had come out of this whole entire injury for me. You know, was it turned into a huge blessing. I've been self-employed ever since. You know, my financial situation, it had become so amazing for me, to the effect that 2 summers ago, I was at an event, and that dark place with that door, with that dark room, had entered back into my consciousness on a Friday night, and I had to actually look at it. And I had the courage to look at it to a certain point. And what I saw was, as a child, I had experienced one of the worst, in my opinion, one of the worst fucking things that a child could ever experience. And I didn't run from it, but it took a few weeks for me to get around to actually doing something about it. It had triggered a rage in me that was beyond anything I'd ever experienced in my life, to the point where my family didn't want me around, to the point where I couldn't stand myself even, you know, going through these rapid ups and downs of, you know, being enraged and feeling just completely depressed, right? I couldn't stand to be with myself. And finally it snaps for me. I call out to the universe for some guidance, for some help, and the universe comes back with a name of a friend of mine that lives in Florida, a female friend of mine that lives in Florida. And I reached out to this person and said, hey, you're on my mind. I'm just checking on you, see how you're doing. Now, normally when something like this happens, the person that I'm reaching out to check on is going through some shit. And she's like, no, I mean, I'm good. And she's like, what about you? And I'm like, yeah, everything's good. No. About a day goes by, I reach back out to this friend of mine, and I said, hey, listen, I got some heavy shit on my plate. Do you have time and space to hold for me? And she says, yeah. And I tell her what's going on, what had happened as I was a child, and how it's affected my whole entire life up to this point, and that I'm ready to do something about it, and I know what to do about it, because I've helped a lot of other people with this kind of stuff, but I need someone to hold space for me who's going to understand this process. And I tell her what the process looks like, and she agrees to it. So like a couple of days later, I hop in a rental car and haul ass down to Florida, right? And I'm in Florida for 6 days, okay? On the third and fourth days that I'm there, I'm starting to relive and clearly recollect this repressed childhood memory. And I'm in a place of rage. And I'm in a place of hatred. I mean, I'm looking at people involved, and I'm looking at people who weren't directly involved, you know, that have done things that had triggered this trauma throughout the years. And I hate them. I mean, I hate them. Okay, I wish the illest things on these people. And my friend, she taps me on the shoulder and says, dude, you know if you want to heal, you have to forgive. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to forgive these people, man. I want them to pay for what they did. I want them to be accountable. I'm so tired of people not being held accountable, dude. I'm always fucking held accountable for what I do. I'm tired of this shit. I want to see other people pay for their harms, you know? And we sit with it, and we discuss it, and I reach this point where I realize, you know, that in this position, withholding forgiveness, holding on to this resentment, this hate, that I'm withholding love and forgiveness for myself. And I'm seeing how this event as a child has molded my behavior and my actions in such a way that I've also harmed other people. Not in the same way, but I've still harmed other people. And now the guilt and the shame of that is weighing on me. And I'm realizing, as my friend's telling me, that if I want to be free from that, I have to forgive those that have harmed me, and I have to go to those people that I've harmed, you know, and try to correct things with them. If I'm to forgive myself, I have to forgive. It just hits me. And so I sit with it, and I do. In a matter of moments, I come to a place of true peace, love, and tolerance. And I'm realizing, as I know already, that hurt people hurt other people. You know, the things that have been done to me came from a place of fear, a place of hurt within other people. And I have compassion. I have compassion for them, and I have compassion for myself. And I come back from Florida, and I'm on this high. I'm in this place of self-love like I've never been in before. You know, it's the first time in my life, I'm 42 years old at this point, that I'm actually in love with myself, you know, and not in a weird, creepy, like arrogant, cocky way. Like, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm fully accepting what I see. I'm looking within myself and I'm fully accepting what I see. And that people is like the epitome of transmutation. That is a solid fucking example of true deep inner healing. And that's what I carry. That's my message. That's what I'm trying to put out into the world. You know, so here's what it is, you know. If we are to heal, that we have to love ourselves. If we are to love ourselves, we have to forgive. Not just ourselves, but others. You know, that's how it works. I can't forgive myself if I'm withholding forgiveness from others. And a lot of folks fight up against this thing, you know, because we've been conditioned to believe that when we forgive others, we absolve them of responsibility for their actions, and that's not true. They're still accountable. But here's the thing. Not only is it not my job to hold other people accountable, I can't. I can scream from the rooftops, this person did this and that, but I cannot make them be accountable. I can't. Just like no one can make me be accountable. That's on me. That's on them. You know, so forgiveness really is the only way. But also, like, looking at the lesson. Looking at the lesson, taking responsibility. You know? It's a huge part of this whole entire process, the message that I carry. At any rate, I just thought that was a really awesome little story of transmutation and magic that I wanted to share with each and every one of you. I love y'all so damn much. Have a wonderful day.